Did you know that in the 1970s, some of the rarest, most brutal, and most forgotten muscle cars in all of automotive history were built? We are not talking about concepts or prototypes, but true street legal beasts that today are worth fortunes and that almost nobody has ever seen up close. Models with fewer than 100 units, special homologation editions, and versions that mark the last breath of a glorious era. If you are a lover of classic cars, the roar of a V8, and those lost gems that only true fans know about, this video is for you. Hit the like button right now and subscribe to the channel because you're about to discover machines so rare that you did not even know they existed. And believe me, you will want to be here when we release the next legend. 1971 Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS 454. Sometimes power does not need to scream. Sometimes all it takes is an elegant silhouette, an imposing chrome grille, and a deep growl that barely lets itself be heard, yet shakes everything around it. That was the Monte Carlo SS, a beast in a tuxedo, designed for those who wanted it all: presence, comfort, and pure American strength under the right foot. The Monte Carlo was born in 1970 as Chevrolet's response to the trend of personal luxury cars that Ford had kicked off with the Thunderbird. But while most of its competitors offered style and smoothness, the Monte Carlo SS decided to put muscle under the hood, and not just any muscle. We are talking about the LS5454 V8, a 7.4-liter giant of an engine producing 365 horsepower and massive torque, capable of moving this 3,800-pound cruiser as if it floated across the asphalt. But here is what made it special. In 1971, fewer than 1,919 units left the factory with this SS 454 configuration, which makes it a true unicorn among the luxury cars of the decade. It was not a car built for everyone. It was for those who knew what they wanted and could afford it. Equipped with a turbo-hydromatic 3-speed automatic transmission, special suspension, dual exhaust, and exclusive details like the SS badge on the grille and specific trim, it was a car meant to be admired and feared. Here's a curious detail that few know. Despite its power, the Monte Carlo SS was unusually quiet for its class. Chevrolet knew its target buyers did not necessarily want to make noise at every corner, but they wanted the assurance that, if needed, they could leave anyone behind. That balance between refinement and mechanical brutality makes it one of the most peculiar and fascinating muscle cars of the era. 1973 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am SD 455. By 1973, the American car world was starting to change. Emission regulations, the oil crisis looming on the horizon, and pressure for safer, more economical cars threatened to bury the muscle car era forever. But Pontiac, true to its defiant spirit, decided to launch one last war cry, and that cry was called Trans Am Super Duty 455. At first glance, it looked like just another Firebird Trans Am. It had the rear spoiler, the functional hood scoop, the sporty stripes, and of course the iconic screaming chicken spread across the hood. But underneath, it hid an untamable heart. We are talking about the SD455 engine, a 7.5-liter V8 built with reinforced components, a forged crankshaft, special rods, and internal architecture designed to survive extreme conditions. Officially, it delivered 290 horsepower, but everyone knew the real number easily surpassed 370, making it one of the most powerful cars ever built under modern regulations. And here is what makes it truly rare. Only 252 units were produced in 1973 with this Super Duty engine. It was not a common option, nor one promoted to the masses. It was created by engineers who wanted to build something extraordinary before it was too late. The SD455 was Pontiac's last attempt to keep the flame of authentic performance alive, even if it had to be done in secret. Beyond the engine, the car came with significant upgrades to suspension, a high-flow exhaust system, a reinforced differential, and brakes capable of taming such power. It was not just fast in a straight line, it was balanced, solid, designed to be driven with precision. The most fascinating part is that this car should never have existed. At a time when everything was moving toward moderation, Pontiac decided to do exactly the opposite. It developed a race-grade engine for a street car, quietly homologated it, and offered it to those who could recognize an extraordinary machine when they saw one. 1970, Plymouth Roadrunner 446 barrel. If you wanted a muscle car that mixed wild attitude with a touch of class, the GTX name was your calling card. But if you added the 446 barrel engine, you were in the presence of a true American beast, as fast as a HEMI, but even rarer. That is how a short-lived but powerful legend was born, the Roadrunner 440. This car did not play games. Under the hood lived the iconic 440 Super Commando 6-barrel with 3 Hollick carburetors lined up, giving the 7.2-liter V8 an explosive response. Officially, it was rated at 390 horsepower. But everyone knew it was much more, a machine built to slam the accelerator without asking permission. Its torque was brutal, its acceleration lightning quick, and its sound a true war cry on wheels. Although the HEMI was the undisputed king of the lineup, the 440 plus 6 was, in many ways, more usable on the street, more accessible, and today, far rarer. Only around 716 units were built with this specific configuration, making it a collector's piece sought after by those who really know the secret codes of the muscle car world. Here is a detail very few know. During internal tests, Chrysler engineers claimed the 440 plus 6 could match the HEMI's performance in short distances, but with lower maintenance costs and greater reliability. That is why many street racers secretly preferred it. It was the wolf dressed as a wolf, with no need to pretend. And now, I want to know from you, have you ever seen one of these 440 plus 6 cars in person? Would you ride in a beast like this, or do you prefer the raw brutality of the HEMI? Drop your answer in the comments. 1970 Buick GSX, Stage 1. If someone told you that one of the fastest muscle cars of 1970 was not a HEMI, not a Chevelle SS, and not even a Boss 429, you would probably pause for a moment. But it is true. The Buick GSX Stage 1 was that silent, elegant car with an almost corporate appearance that left you eating dust on the straightaway, at a time when Buick was seen as a brand for mature and conservative executives. The division decided to break the mold. In 1970, they launched a high-impact version of the already powerful Grand Sport 455, the GSX, a car that combined luxury, visual aggression, and performance that bordered on the savage. But the best part was the optional Stage 1 package, an internal upgrade that transformed the 455 cubic inch 7.5-liter V8 into a beast capable of producing 510 pound-feet of torque, an absurd figure even today. In period tests, this car covered the quarter mile in just 13.3 seconds, beating most of its direct rivals. Its design was discreet, except for the Saturn yellow or Apollo white colors with black stripes, but on the track, it was brutal, a true gentleman's dragster. Total production of the GSX in 1970 was 678 units, and of those, fewer than 500 received the Stage 1 package, making it an extremely rare gem. And here is a fascinating detail. According to factory records, many dealers did not even know how to properly explain what the Stage 1 was, and some units were sold without mentioning its true potential, making it one of the most underestimated high-performance cars in history. The GSX had reinforced suspension, high-performance brakes, a limited slip differential, and road manners as solid as its launches. But above all, it was the car no one saw coming. In an era dominated by noise, flash, and bravado, the Buick showed up, humiliated its rivals, and disappeared. 1970, Dodge Challenger T. A 1970 was a special year. The muscle car war was at its peak, and every manufacturer wanted a piece of the prestige that professional racing offered. In the middle of this madness for speed, Dodge made a bold decision to transform its newly launched Challenger into a track warrior. That is how the Dodge Challenger TA was born, an addition created to homologate its participation in the Trans Am Championship, but one that ended up becoming an absolute icon of American design and performance. To compete in the SCCA Trans-American Series, brands had to produce a certain number of street cars with specifications similar to those used on the track. Dodge answered with the Challenger TA, a precisely tuned machine, visually imposing and with real improvements under the hood. Its heart was a 346-pack, 5.6-liter V8 with 3 Holley carburetors and an official output of 290 horsepower, though many knew that figure was underrated. The sound of that engine, combined with a factory side exit exhaust, was a wild symphony impossible to forget. Only about 2,399 units were built, which makes it quite rare even within the Challenger universe. And every detail of the T/A had a purpose. The functional hood scoop, the wider rear tires, the rear spoiler, and the aerodynamic front all served to improve performance on the track. It was a version truly built to race and to look brutal while doing it. One fascinating detail is that this model had a higher front suspension than the rear, something that at first glance looked like a mistake, but was actually a technical solution to maintain balance in aggressive cornering. In addition, the hood was made of matte fiberglass, not only for weight reduction, but also to avoid glare that could distract the driver. Every element had a reason. The TA was produced for only 1 year, which quickly turned it into a collector's dream. Its legacy does not just live on in its rarity, but in its pure focus. It was a muscle car born from the track, made for the streets, without compromise. 1970 AMC Rebel Machine. When you think of legendary 1970s muscle cars, AMC is probably not the first name that comes to mind, but maybe it should be, because in 1970, American Motors broke all expectations by launching a car that was not only fast, but also absolutely unmistakable, the Rebel Machine. From the first glance, you knew this was no ordinary car. Painted from the factory in a patriotic combination of red, white, and blue, with aggressive stripes, a bulging functional hood scoop, and unique wheels, the Rebel Machine did not try to blend in. On the contrary, it shouted its identity with pride. It was developed in collaboration with Hearst Performance, and its message was clear. AMC also knew how to build muscle cars, and it did so in its own way. Under the hood, the heart of this beast was a 390 cubic inch, 6.4-liter V8, producing 340 horsepower and over 430 Newton-meters of torque, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. This car could cover the quarter mile in just over 14 seconds. And although it was not the fastest of the era, its combination of presence, aggressiveness, and exclusivity made it something truly special. Only 2,326 Rebel machines were built, all in 1970, which makes it an absolute rarity today. And here is a fascinating fact. Although most came in the patriotic paint scheme, AMC offered up to 14 different colors by special order, which means that some surviving examples today are even more unique and highly coveted by collectors. And now tell me honestly, had you heard of the Rebel Machine before watching this video? Would you dare to drive something so unusual today? Leave it in the comments. 1971, Ford Mustang Boss 351. In 1971, the roar of muscle cars was beginning to be threatened by fast-approaching shadows, environmental regulations, higher insurance costs, and lower octane fuels. It was the beginning of the end for a golden era, but before the curtain fell, Ford decided to play one last master card. A farewell with clenched fists and gritted teeth. This was not just any Mustang, it was the last pure-blooded Boss, the direct successor to the legendary Boss 302, and the feared Boss 429, but with an identity of its own. Visually, it was muscular and imposing, with longer lines, an aggressive front end, and details like black stripes, a bulging hood, and a darkened grille. But the real story began when you turned the key. Under the hood slept a 351 cubic inch Cleveland 5V8 tuned to deliver 330 horsepower, though real numbers were even higher. It had closed chamber heads, a high-performance camshaft, aluminum intake, a 750 cubic feet per minute Holley carburetor, and a redline at 6,150 RPM, something impressive for a small block of the time. It was paired with a 4-speed manual transmission and a 3.91-to-1 rear axle ratio, making it a true beast ready to devour the quarter mile. Only 1,806 units of the Boss 351 were produced in 1971. It was a limited run, intentionally aimed at those who knew exactly what they were looking for: unfiltered performance. The Boss 351 was not comfortable, not luxurious, not friendly to the average driver. It was raw, firm, and absolutely focused. And that is what made it special. Here is a little-known fact. In comparative tests, the Boss 351 outperformed several larger displacement rivals, including the 426 HEMI, in acceleration up to 60 miles per hour and on track times, thanks to its balance, lower weight, and more refined engineering. In many ways, it was the most balanced muscle car of its generation. 1971 Plymouth HEMI Cuda. This is not just another powerful car. It is a statement of intent, an icon, a piece that combines the most aggressive design of its era with the most feared engine in Detroit, and with production so limited that today, seeing one in person is almost like seeing a unicorn roar past. The Cuda had already proven its character since 1970, but in 1971, it reached its ultimate form. That year, it received a new split grille, recessed headlights, functional air scoops, and an even more imposing rear design. But the soul remained the same: the 426 HEMI engine, a 7-liter V8 with hemispherical heads, dual 4-barrel carburetors, and an official rating of 425 horsepower, though in reality, it was closer to 470. Here is what makes it truly special. Only 108 hardtops were produced in 1971 with the HEMI engine. And if that already sounds low, hold on. Only 11 convertibles left the factory with this setup. That makes them some of the rarest and most valuable production cars in the history of American automotive culture. At today's auctions, a HEMI Cuda convertible can easily reach 7-figure prices. It was such a brutal car that it came with warnings. Its shaker hood vibrated violently under acceleration, the exhaust roared like thunder exploding beneath the ground, and its behavior at the limit demanded total respect. It was not for everyone, neither then nor now. Here is an absolutely fascinating fact. Many dealers did not even want to sell HEMI Cudas because of the difficulty in insuring them and their harsh behavior in inexperienced hands. Some were sent directly to professional racers, and several of the few survivors today carry stories worthy of a movie. 1971 Pontiac GTO Judge Convertible. In the world of muscle cars, some models were popular, others became iconic, and a few reached the status of absolute legend. The GTO Judge Convertible belongs to that last group. Not just because of its power or its aggressive design, but because of a simple number: 17 units. That was how scarce its existence was. To understand its greatness, we first need to talk about what the Judge represented. This version of the GTO was born as an irreverent response to the high-performance culture of the late 1960s. Loud colors, exaggerated spoilers, bold graphics, and plenty of attitude. The Judge was a car that laughed at the rules while breaking them on the track. But in 1971, the rules had changed. Emissions, insurance, fuel prices, and weight were all rising, while power was starting to fall. It was in that context that Pontiac released the Judge's Last Breath, a convertible edition that, although it carried the name, already knew it was saying goodbye. Under the hood lived a 455 high-output, 7.5-liter V8, delivering a respectable 335 horsepower with enough torque to still be feared. Even so, production was minimal. Only 17 convertibles ever left the factory. Each of those 17 cars was a hand-built piece of mechanical rebellion. Most were painted in vibrant colors like orbit orange and equipped with the classic Hurst T-handle shifter, front disc brakes, sport suspension, and the iconic rear spoiler. They were not just convertibles. They were ruthless rockets designed for one last ride into the sun before everything changed. Here is an impressive fact. For years, it was thought these cars did not even exist, until they started appearing at auctions, carefully restored and documented, reaching astronomical values. Today, a 1971 Judge Convertible can cost as much as a luxury home, and each surviving example carries its own story of survival, because very few people knew what they were buying back then. This car is not just rare, it is emotionally powerful. It represents the definitive farewell to irreverence, to noise, to excess. It was the last one to say, "This is who we are, and this is how we leave." And what better way to go out than with the wind in your face, the roar of a V8 in your chest, and a name that still echoes through history, the Judge. And there you have them, the rarest muscle cars of the 1970s, true steel legends that roared loudly just before the industry changed forever. Some with fewer than 20 units in the world. Do you realize the level of rarity we just explored? Now tell me, which of these surprised you the most? Which one would you love to have in your garage, even if just for a day? Scroll down to the comments and join in. Your opinion not only enriches the video, but also proves that you are part of this community of classic enthusiasts who refuse to forget these legendary beasts. And if this journey through the 1970s blew your mind, you cannot miss the previous episode, where we explored the rarest and wildest muscle cars of the 1960s. Believe me, there are gems there that will take your breath away. See you there.